There is a knife that hangs in a tiny restaurant in Osaka, and it has never met a sharpening stone. This is not neglect. This is the opposite of neglect. The blade has been worn down not by grinding away its metal, but by the steady, intimate friction of cutting day after day for over 70 years. It has grown thinner, more delicate, more alive with each passing meal. And this is the beautiful part. That knife is not dull. If you have ever held a blade that belonged to someone who fed you as a child, you know the strange weight it carries. It is not just the balance of the steel. It is the memory of every onion that wept beneath it, every fish that surrendered its flesh, every loaf that cracked open to reveal steam. The knife holds these moments in its edge, in the microscopic topography of its surface, in the way it catches light at certain angles. And this is where the story truly begins. There is a pot in the same kitchen. It is a donabe, an earthenware vessel, and it has not been washed with soap in 50 years. The seasoning on its walls is not grime. It is an archive. Each layer of dried broth, each whisper of miso residue, each faint trace of sake that seeped into the clay during a rainy New Year celebration. These are the pages of a cookbook,
is the pot
written
itself.
not with ink,
Its pages are
but
written
with
not
patience.
with ink, but with
The
flavor.
owner of this kitchen, an elderly woman named Hanako, once told a visiting food writer that her grandmother's hands first seasoned that pot in 1946, when the city was still trying to remember how to feed itself. If you want to honor such quiet histories, stay with this channel. There are more pots waiting to give up their secrets. Each layer of residue a page, each cracked lid a letter from someone long gone. And while the story deepens, tell us in the comments, what year did your own grandmother's hands first touch the vessel you treasure most? Now, let us travel across the sea to a different kitchen, a modern one, where a chef in Seoul is doing something that would make most health inspectors shudder. He keeps a jar of gochujang paste that was started by his great-grandmother in 1923. It has not been refrigerated. It has not been sealed with plastic. It breathes. The walls of the jar have formed a patina of fermented memory, a community of yeast and bacteria that has been alive for a full century. Every time he stirs a new batch into the old one, he is continuing a conversation that began before his grandmother was born. And here, the two timelines begin to mirror each other. In Osaka, Hanako does not wash her donabe because she understands that the clay is porous. Each meal leaves behind a tiny library of flavor. A fish stew from August, simmered with ginger and soy, deposits a layer of lipids into the ceramic. A winter nabe with chicken and napa cabbage adds another stratum. The pot remembers. And when she prepares a simple miso soup in spring, the pot itself contributes a ghost of summer, a shadow of autumn, a trace of every meal that came before. The flavor is not just the recipe. The flavor is the history. In Seoul, the same principle governs the jar. The gochujang paste is not a static condiment. It is a living organism that has been fed, coaxed, and passed down through 4 generations. The great-grandmother's original batch contained ingredients that no longer exist in the same form. Peppers grown in soil that has since been built over. Salt harvested from a coast that erosion has reshaped. Water from a well that has run dry. Yet those flavors persist. They are captured in the jar's walls, in the invisible ecosystem that coats the ceramic, in the way the paste smells when you lift the lid. The jar is a time capsule, and the seal is memory. This is the detail most people miss. We have been taught to believe that cleanliness is the highest virtue in the kitchen. Scrub every surface. Sanitize every tool. Strip every pan down to bare metal. But there is a wisdom embedded in these old pots and knives and jars that flies in the face of modern hygiene. The wisdom is this. Sometimes the dirt is not dirt. Sometimes the residue is the recipe. If this made sense instantly, it is because you already knew. Some people hear the story of a pot that has not been washed in 50 years and they recoil. They see only the potential for bacterial growth. But you see something else. You understand that the same bacteria that frightens the modern mind is the same bacteria that gave us bread, cheese, wine, yogurt, soy sauce, and every fermented treasure that has sustained human civilization for 10,000 years. You already know that the line between filth and flavor is a recently invented one. Now consider the knife again. It has been sharpened not by stone, but by use. Every cut refines its edge. Every slice against a wooden board aligns the microscopic teeth of the steel. The blade has grown shorter. Yes. It has lost perhaps a centimeter of its original length over the decades. But what remains is pure function, distilled by repetition. The knife is not a tool that has been worn down. It is a tool that has been carved into its truest shape by a lifetime of purposeful work. And the pot, too, has been refined. The pot is not stained. It is seasoned. Let us return to Hanako's kitchen. The donabe sits on a low shelf, next to a stack of miso jars and a single wooden ladle that has gone dark with age. Hanako does not treat it like a relic. She uses it every day. When a new dish is cooked in it, the old layers interact with the new ingredients. There is a dialogue between what came before and what is arriving now. The pot does not keep the past frozen. It brings the past into the present, stirring it into the broth, letting it breathe again. A meal cooked in that pot is not just a meal. It is a continuation of every meal that came before it. A bridge between a grandmother who survived a war and a granddaughter who does not remember hunger. And this is where the story deepens into something almost uncomfortable. In Japan, there is a term for this layered seasoning on earthenware, kizushi. It refers to the patina of use that builds up on a well-loved vessel, and it is considered a mark of honor. Restaurants that have maintained the same miso soup base in the same pot for decades display it with pride. Chefs speak of the pot's personality, its memory, its voice. They do not say the pot is dirty. They say the pot has character. And there is a ceremony for when a pot finally breaks. After 100 years of service, it is not thrown away. It is buried with gratitude. In Korea, the same reverence exists for the ongi, the large earthenware jars used for fermentation. A well-seasoned ongi is treated as a family heirloom. It is passed down with instructions whispered from mother to daughter. Some ongi are hundreds of years old, and their interiors are coated with a layer of fermentation residue so deep that it looks almost black. But that black is not dirt. It is a concentrated library of every batch of kimchi, every sauce, every treasure that has been stored inside. The jar remembers the taste, the climate, the season, the hands that placed the food inside it. Now, think about the modern kitchen. The gleaming stainless steel, the non-stick pans that are replaced every 2 years, the knives that are thrown away when they grow dull, because it is cheaper to buy a new set than to learn how to sharpen. The plastic cutting boards that accumulate grooves filled with the ghosts of 1,000 chopped dinners, but that are bleached and discarded without ever being truly known. We have traded memory for convenience. We have traded depth for hygiene. And we have lost something essential. Come back for the next chapter of our journey through living relics. There is a wooden spoon that has stirred broth for 3 generations, waiting its turn to speak. And while the story settles, share in the comments. What is one tool in your kitchen you refuse to scrub bare? The question that lingers is this: if a pot can carry the flavor of a grandmother's cooking across 7 decades, if a knife can be sharpened by 1,000,000 cuts, if a jar can hold the breath of a century, what are we washing away when we scrub our own kitchens bare? Every time you scrape a pan clean, you erase a meal. Every time you bleach a cutting board, you silence a taste. Every time you discard a tool because it shows wear, you break a chain that could have fed your grandchildren. This is not an argument for neglect. It is an argument for reverence. There is a difference between a pot that has been cared for and a pot that has been abandoned. A seasoned vessel is not neglected. It is tended. It is used. It is loved. It is allowed to age gracefully, to accumulate wisdom, to carry the story of its purpose in its very material. And that perhaps is the deepest lesson these old pots have to teach us. The things we use every day become archives. The tools we touch, the vessels we cook in, the knives we trust, they absorb us. They remember our hands. Hanako does not think of her donabe as a museum piece. She thinks of it as a friend. When she lifts the lid, she knows what it will say. The steam tells her the story of the morning. The residue on the walls whispers of meals past. The pot has been with her longer than some of her children have been alive. It has seen her cry. It has seen her cook for a funeral. It has seen her laugh over a New Year feast with her granddaughters. And every time she sets it on the flame, it remembers. And so does she. If you believe some pots deserve to keep their ghosts, share this video. Let others know that grime can be wisdom. And if you ever find a vessel that has not met the soapy sponge in 50 years, listen closely. It may have a story worth tasting. Subscribe with Miso, and let us keep the old recipes alive together. And so the story returns to where it began. The knife in the small Osaka restaurant, the pots that breathe, the jars that hold entire centuries within their glazed walls. These objects are not relics of a forgotten past. They are living witnesses, and they are speaking to anyone who knows how to listen. The flavor of a meal is never just the ingredients that went into it that day. It is the accumulation of every meal that has touched the same vessel before. It is the ghost of a grandmother's fingers, the echo of a festival that has not been celebrated in 50 years, the quiet sadness of a winter that was too cold, the joy of a spring that finally arrived. All of it is there. All of it is in the pot. And this is the truth that the modern kitchen has tried to erase. We have been taught that food begins at the grocery store and ends in the trash. But the old pots know better. They know that food is a cycle that stretches backward into the soil and forward into the mouths of children not yet born. The pot is the bridge. The knife is the scribe. The jar is the archive. And we, the ones who cook and eat, are the custodians of a conversation that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone. So the next time you hold a pot that has been passed down, or a knife that has been used by someone who loved you, remember what they carry. They carry the weight of meals that nourished bodies and spirits. They carry the memory of hands that kneaded dough for a celebration, scrubbed vegetables for a feast, and stirred broth for a sick child. They carry love, and that love is not washed away. It is seasoned in.